We are now starting the Streamination on Season 7, Episode 7, Parental Glideance. This is the episode in which we meet Rainbow Dash's parents for the first time, and they are psychotic. And then Scootaloo meets them, and there's some fun stuff that happens. And then Rainbow Dash learns a lesson. Now, allow me to be confusing. This episode is better than I remembered it being. I'm serious. I was all prepped to set this one up for green or blue territory. But the problem is that it keeps being good in individual moments and scenes. Let's go through this sequentially, shall we? As we always do. So, Scootaloo needs to get up to Cloudsdale and say, hey, sweet! Okay, so first of all, this is extremely dangerous. I'm not giving the episode credit for that. I'm not. But at the same time, maybe I should. Because there is a surprising amount of effort and work put into little details in this episode. The presence, I actually wrote down names because I can't remember any names. The presence of Lightning Dust back in the day, back when she was competing. Lightning Dust used to be the one on top, and she gets all upset when, you know, she gets up, when Rainbow finally surpasses her when they were still kids. The fact that all of the Wonderbolts were also there competing with her, and it's mentioned that Rainbow was completing ahead of her age grade. So that does establish that most of the other Wonderbolts are a bit older than Rainbow, but not by much. And the fact that they're all just kind of blasé and being amused by the parents because this is old hat to them. All of that is stuff that's quiet, under the hood, and surprisingly well designed. Oh yeah, Derpy was there too. My point is, there's little moments like that consistently that show a lot of thought put into this, weirdly enough. For example, another thing is the Vapor Trail and Sky Stinger are still there while we're on the subject. Or the fact that it bothered to track certain events with it. You get the point. So what I'm trying to say here is it's actually possible that the episode is actually making a point about Scootaloo's total lack of parental interaction. Which, remember, as of this point, we still haven't even met her parents. And in fact, I don't think we've even mentioned her parents up until this point. Like, we've mentioned it, but I don't think the episodes have. Like, there's a reason Rainbow Dash is her big sister, right? So it's entirely possible that the reason that she's going ahead with this is because she doesn't, like, she doesn't have parents to get her up to frickin' Cloudsdale, right? Again, that might be me giving the episode too much credit, but there is a lot of thought on display, so I think that's not really pushing the boundaries of acceptability. That being said, I should mention this is by Josh Hamilton. You might recognize him from absolutely nothing else. This is his first episode for the series. We're starting to see a lot of that. I imagine we'll continue to see these things again in the future. So she screams through the opening animation. I mentioned the quality of the episode. This is probably one of the best animated episodes in this entire season. There's a lot of very small details. I'm not going to cover all of them, but I am going to give you one example. The wings. The way they use the wings and the way the wings are animated is surprisingly well done. Some examples I wrote down: they use their wings to plug their ears, they use their wings to pop their shirt, they use the wings to salute people, they use the wings to shake, you know, they do the hand wing shakes. There are a lot of things they do. Scootaloo gets a lot of excellent animation that clearly was something done just for the scene that it's done in. Let me explain what I mean by that. Most animation is templated. So they have a template for Scootaloo's body in all the various animations, and it does. So all of that is just kind of something that they use, and then they grab from the bin in order to throw it into the scene as needed, right? They just kind of do this. But my point is that as they're doing this, that's standard animation. It's very rare that they will throw together an animation block or a specific animation for just one scene, which it feels like they did several times in this episode for Scootaloo, hence my point. Anyways, so they scream through it, and they use the wings, and that's all cool. All right, so Scootaloo's Flanderization continues. So Scootaloo has always been a fan of Rainbow Dash, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with being a big fan of something or someone, and that's fine too. But Scootaloo reaches the point of effectively becoming what I would refer to as stalker territory. Now, she's not literally stalking, but what I mean by that is when you've reached the point of being stalker-level fan, you've gone over a line. Now, I am going to go ahead and admit that this is a little bit of an alien territory for me, because I don't do this. I don't get this way. I never have, even when I was younger. You know, meeting Brent Spiner was cool and all, but he's an actor, you know, it's cool, it's whatever. I don't think there's anybody on the planet where I am capable of being this much of a fanboy of. So, from the perspective of an alien, I don't get that. I do think she goes a little bit too far, even though most of it is done for gags. For example, do you always wear that shirt? Actually, it's laundry day. That's a good line. That's a good line. That got a chuckle out of me. Then they show the place. It's a nice place. And, oh, absolutely, S.A. Ross. And then they have a pasta potato sandwich on sourdough. I mean, that's what you chugged right before a competition, I'll tell you what, but, ugh. Another little detail there. Another little tiny little detail. They have cloud ceilings. Just actually made of clouds rather than material. That's just kind of a cool little thing I wanted to comment on. Oh, no doubt, so come. And I mentioned little details. I'm going to be pointing out a few of these. They open the door for Scootaloo, and then immediately plug their ears the moment they open the door. Because she immediately starts squealing again. Just little details like that are what bring this episode up from blue territory. When the going gets tough, the tough don't notice because they have hard shells. And it's a poster of a tortoise. That's cute. Angelic music and lights. That got a laugh out of me. I'll be completely honest. Then we take another step towards unacceptable, because they kept around a diaper and a bitten apple. Now, I'm actually pretty big on memorabilia overall, as in things of memories, you know? I mean, I have my niece's Coliseum thing right there. I've got my original NES. You know, this was given to me by my sister. Lines of acceptability. Ranges of acceptability, you know? This is past acceptability, is what I'm trying to say. Then we get to the point where Rainbow didn't tell her parents that she got in as a Wonderbolt. This is another part of the episode that's well written, because that information right there, that little reveal, says so much. That explains so much right in a single nutshell. Holy crap. And then the episode makes me laugh again. I started getting pissed off here. Because what happens is she's like, you should see your faces now. See, this is your faces right now. And they're like, our daughter's a Wonderbolt? And, you know, she's opened the door again. And I actually wrote in my notes, no joke, damn it episode, stop making me laugh. By the way, this is a good time as any to mention that Equestria remains better than real life in every way, because a total stranger teenager ends up at two total strangers' house, and not only is it totally fine, it's actually pretty wholesome. Anywho. So then her parents cheer so loudly they actually cause turbulence. I'm going to let that one slide because that's probably a gag. But then the episode, and then they have the big embarrassing parenting. This is when we start to notice that, you know, the Wonderbolts obviously recognize them. And they're like, yeah, okay. Because you notice the rest of the Wonderbolts are not upset at all. They're just like, oh yeah, it's them again. And that's it. Like, that's their reaction. Let's fast forward a little bit. We go to the event where they're doing a Wonderbolt event. And the episode gets another laugh out of me. Now, I have to give credit to the actress who voices her mother. I didn't write down her name, or either the actress's name or the character name. This is actually the only role she ever did for MLP, is this one character, her mother. She does a great job of it. She's actually a very regular actress in a lot of other television. Wendy Whistles is the character name. I don't remember the actress name. But she does a great job. My favorite tidbit is this bit right here, which got the laugh out of me. Oh, hooray! Oh, no. Hooray again! Oh, no. Just her reactions as Scootaloo is running through some of the history of the Wonderbolt episodes was really good. And then... I don't know. It's just the comedic timing, I think, that works. Rip it up and tear it down. Then rip it back up again and tear it back down again. Do you think they make their own Rainbow Dash paraphernalia, or do you think they buy it somewhere? Because we do know Rainbow Dash actually does have a fan club. She has in Season 2. All right. They're over the top. But so far, they haven't really gone too far. I mean, they have. They've crossed over the line of acceptability, but they've only just crossed over it. And the episode has them shouting and being like, "Yay, you're amazing," as as they're doing at a public showing. And as weird as this may sound, there's nothing really wrong with that within range of acceptability. There's nothing wrong with cheering or clapping or being excited at a demonstration event like this, right? Then they shoot off fireworks. That makes perfect sense, Weodes. This is probably the actual most crossing over the line they do in the entire episode. Now, granted, this doesn't go as badly as it absolutely could have. But they shoot off fireworks in the middle of an air show. I remember the first time I saw this episode, and that was the official moment I was just like, okay, this is stupid. This is reaching Flanderdization points. They then immediately follow that by taking the Flanderdization and embracing it as hard as they can. Because then they start cheering for her signing the thing and cutting the ribbon and all that. And it's just... This is the ridiculous exaggeration. And I want to stress this point, because up until the fireworks, I would probably say the episode was average. It's a little bit eye-rolly and a little bit stupid, but it's also very intelligent, and it legitimately makes me laugh. So that's average, right? It's like, okay, yeah, sure. But then it goes into this ridiculous exaggeration, and this is what absolutely ruins the episode. I'm actually lying. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. This is what makes the episode bad. We're not into worse territory yet, because this goes down from here. Anyways, then Rainbow snaps. You're too supportive. You're too much. Emphasis. Rainbow keeps putting emphasis on the exaggeration, on how they're going too far. She doesn't care that they're supportive. She cares that they're too supportive. Then, I mean, I hate to use this example as I always do, but even water, which is something we effectively need on a daily basis, is something that it's extremely easy to have too much of. So even if encouragement and support and all that stuff is a good thing, which I do think it is, by the way, it is entirely easy to have too much of basically anything. The better example is probably, it's easy to have too much air. And then her parents immediately guilt trip her, probably for the sake of a gag, and run off crying. Then Scootaloo says, screw this, and is like, I don't want to deal with you anymore. Okay, let's pause the episode right there, at that exact second. I'm okay with that. The parents trying to guilt trip her, yeah, no, that's legit. Scootaloo freaking out over it. I mean, she's a teenager, and she's obviously been bonding with these two, so that's legit. So as of this exact second in the episode, I'm still okay with it. Then we move forward 1 second, and Rainbow starts crying over it. We cut to commercial. We come back, and she's immediately trying to make up for it. And this part can go to hell. Because the episode very clearly, heavily slants it as if Rainbow Dash is completely in the wrong and her parents are completely right. Even if that were true, which it's not, it is worth noting that that is such a simplistic perspective, such a basic level take on a very complex dynamic relationship, that even if it was correct, it would still be something I would be complaining about. That's ignoring the fact that it's incredibly wrong. I made it a point this time around I actually rewatched the Rainbow Yells scene specifically to see if at any point I felt that Rainbow crossed a line. Because it's possible to do that even when you're right. Sometimes you're too angry, or sometimes you get too caught in the moment, or sometimes you raise your voice too far, and you go a little bit too far, right? You probably know exactly what that's like. Yeah, the in the moment thing. However, after having watched that scene twice in a row, Rainbow never crossed that line. She never actually went over the top. You're too supportive. You're too much. How could you possibly judge someone with the towel thing? Ugh. Trunk. I think you should go. Rainbow was 100% in the right, and responded in a surprisingly measured fashion. Yeah, she never said, I hate you. She never said, I don't want to see you again. She never said, get out of my face, or all the other things that she could have said that could have made this a little bit more, oh my gosh. Instead, it was just her being legit and actually being honest about it for once. So then we have a flashback. Real quick, I love the 80s hair and outfits on the parents. This is when we get even more stuff. Lightning dust, I mentioned that earlier. And this is when I should probably pause. I noticed 4 continuity counters, because there's actually several. There's just a cavalcade. It kind of depends on how we define continuity counters in this one, because there's a lot of references to older stuff here. I'm going to count it off at 4, because there's several rapid fire, and they do improve the episode, absolutely. Anyways, yeah, Derpy was adorable as usual, but so I have a note here. This episode helps to describe, or it helps to give insight onto why Rainbow Dash has 1 HP, as we've talked about many times. But this episode could have been an insight into why Rainbow has 1 HP. And you're probably thinking, isn't it? No. This episode is all about an entirely different angle in something that happens to be adjacent to that point. The intended Aesop of the episode is very, very clear. You know, your parents love you and they support you. Don't be embarrassed about them. So, first of all, this episode could have been an insight into Rainbow's 1 HP thing, and if it is unintentionally. Second of all, this episode can have been all about insight into Scootaloo and her personality and how she's developed. And it isn't. I was paying attention for some hint or some sign, but there isn't any. Now, we can infer that Scootaloo is interested in Rainbow Dash's parents and is positive about that because she doesn't have that. And we could infer that she's so into this positivity and this supportive thing because she hasn't had that. But the episode never actually quite goes over that line of being like, hey. And even if we were to argue against that, and I'll lose that argument. Okay, there, I've lost. The episode totally establishes that Scootaloo's parents are unhelpful and unsupportive. Okay, I will absolutely acquiesce to that point, but the episode does nothing with that. That's not the character beat. That's not the Aesop. That's not the development. It's something that goes by in the background that the episode doesn't address or do anything with at all, other than to prove that Rainbow is wrong. Now, I wrote down 2 exact quotes to really hammer this point in, to really explain just how slanted and just how biased this episode is. And I quote, from Rainbow Dash, "I've got to make this right," thereby stating implicitly that she has done something absolutely wrong. And from Scootaloo, "King, I will call this photo, Rainbow Dash learns the error of her ways." Then the episode gets another laugh out of me, because there's a moldy sandwich in her report. Damn it, episode. Stop making me smile. You have a bad... What is wrong with you? And then, continuing the fact that they learned the wrong lesson, Rainbow and her parents start disruptively, that's the word I want to use. They start disruptively cheering in the middle of the class, interrupting class, despite being asked to stop by the teacher, which leads immediately into a wah-wah. Which we will add that to the wah-wah counter. Now, it's probably obvious why, from a casual viewing, my first viewing of this episode, I hated this episode, and I expected this to be into lamentation territory. Because the thing that stuck with me most was the terrible lesson and how much they'd slanted towards the terrible lesson. That pissed me off. By the way, it still pisses me off. It actually pisses me off more now, because I've analyzed it, and I can actually tell you just how much they slanted, as I have just done. But I can't actually rate this episode that badly, because there's just too much good in it. The episode is legitimately funny, legitimately intelligent and smart in several aspects. Extremely well animated, surprisingly well blocked, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, this episode easily could have been a Red episode. And the funny thing is, they could have done so many different things with this. This could have been all about Rainbow Dash's past, why she is the way she is. This could have been all about Scootaloo, and helping to elaborate on her home situation, which, again, we haven't really done anything with yet. This episode could have been... God, those are the two big ones. I'm going to stop there. There are several other directions they could take that. Instead... It's someone said this in chat. Who said that? It was Trathan. This episode is bipolar as hell. This music is this episode in a nutshell. How do we rate this thing? Oh, the one change game? I mean, it's cheating. The one change is to get rid of the Aesop. To make it so that Rainbow isn't wrong. The one change is to have Rainbow blow up at her parents, and have her parents guilt trip her, and then have Scootaloo run off crying. And then cut to Scootaloo and her parents, and Scootaloo mentions to her parents, oh man, I'm seeing parents being so supportive is something I'm not used to seeing. I was so caught up in it, but I have to admit, you know, you've done a lot of things that aren't just embarrassing, but you're actually getting in the way. And the parents either realize the truth of it, or, and that feels too cheap. What I would probably do is I would have the parents admit that they know that they're pushing too far, and to give a reason for why they do. I don't know what. I mean, my first thought is that Rainbow Dash is not an only child, would be my first thought, if you know what I mean. Because there's a couple of really dark directions you could take that. In fact, I probably wouldn't even clarify in the episode. I would just say, you know, she was it's our second chance at this. Our second chance at being parents, and we really didn't want to screw it up. So I guess we did. And so then, you know, the parents go to Rainbow Dash and make it up to her. And there you go. Episode fixed. No, this is absolutely not a blue episode. I agree with S.A. Ross on that. I mean, I agree with you, Savacom, but I can't in good conscience rate this episode blue. However, I'm leaning pretty strongly towards green. Ogre said green. Lord Harriman is saying green or yellow. Baron is saying green. Trathan is saying green or yellow. Weouds is saying yellow. Like we've clearly established a range here. We just have to decide which we landed on. Because it depends on which is more important to you, I suppose. The absolutely face-palmingly terrible actively bad, actively damaging lesson, which is terribly executed, or the rest of the episode. Oh, I didn't even see it, Darth Medora. What did you say? Oh, there you are. I vote for green. I can't go above that. I see that. Sorry. I need to stretch this out again. While I'm recording, I usually have the chat set up differently, so I can't actually see this differently. There we go. Yeah, it's as usual. I made a note here in my notes. As usual, this is another episode that's ruined by exaggeration. This is not the first time this has happened for MLP. Hell, this isn't half the first time this has happened in general. I've covered several Trek episodes where exaggeration ruins the episode. I'm leaning really heavily towards green myself. I think I'm going to commit to green. It's just... I will never watch this episode again. And it's a shame, because it came that close to actually being worth a damn. Not just worth a damn. Let me tell you, it came that close to being red. This could have been a red episode. And I know I've called this the Helicopter Parents episode. This isn't actually Helicopter Parents. This is just bad parents. So, what's next? Hang on, let me pull up the list here. What is the next episode? Next is the Valentine's Day episode. Now, I remember this one positively. So we will see exactly how this one manages. What's the actual name of the episode? Hard to say anything. Hard to say anything. CMC episodes are usually good. That's a pretty consistent trend. We'll see in about 25 minutes.